ability to absorb nutrients from their foods is extremely decreased. They tend to be sick, underweight. They don't have a long lifespan. They do now. They have a longer lifespan. Some people with it have actually made it into their 40s, all right, because they're doing gene therapy now for it. But it used to be when, earlier days, children barely made it to their teens. Okay, so you can encounter that. You can encounter this overproduction of the mucus. Other things that can happen, like I said, the toxins from smoking kill this structure and change the structure of the cells, make them stratified squamous. That's not a cell we need right there at all. Okay, so you're going to encounter issues with this breathing structure, and rates of respiratory diseases, the COPDs, the asthmas, we have so many respiratory disorders now, and that would be normal. That would be the structure that would be normal to actually be able to have those cilia moving and helping basically move forward any type of particle that's trying to make its way. So people with certain breathing disorders and so forth, they can't do this. They will have lots of issues with breathing problems. The lungs, left and right, of course. The trachea will branch into 2 bronchi. The bronchi will branch into 2 on the left, 3 on the right lobes. Because we have 2 versus 3, we have to have the ability for the heart to be present, so that's why it's 2 versus 3. As you move into the lobes of the lungs, we can see that, like, as it moves into, we have this area called a hilum. This is for the entry of that tubing, and then, of course, we've got tons and tons of blood vessels that are present in the lungs and the respiratory system. So you can see that we have this cardiac impression because of the heart, 3 versus 2, all right? And yes, a lobe itself can be removed. A lung can be removed, a right or a left, and people can live. So, that can happen. The structure, normal, have you ever seen pictures of a normal lung versus a diseased lung, like a person who smokes, for example? And on the healthy lung, it's really nice and pink and looks almost fluffy and squishy because it is. On the person that was the smoker, where it's all black and crusty and looks hard and ugh, okay? Because it is. Do you happen to know what it is that gets embedded in that tissue for it to look that way? The tar. Yep. Mm-hmm.
For people who stop smoking, can their lungs and stuff get better, get back to how it used to look?
Now, depending upon the time frame that they were smokers, how much they smoked, either way, lung function will get better, okay? But chances are greater if they've smoked for a longer period of time, heavy smokers, for them to have some type of damage. Like, COPD. Has everybody heard of that? Chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. Okay? So, for someone who's been a heavy smoker for a long period of time to not have that would be pretty miraculous. Okay? So the sooner they quit, the better. Now, does that mean they're going to go back to like a normal, healthy, unsmoking lung?
So how does that affect like secondhand smoke?
Unfortunately, secondhand smoke can affect the person just as much as the smoker. The nicotine, one of the things that happens when a cigarette is smoked and the chemicals of that cigarette go in, when they are breathing out the smoke from the cigarette, that number has increased by, I think, double or more of bad chemicals that are coming out. And have you ever do y'all know people who smoke? Okay, I'm heading into my 3rd month now, non-smoking. So my hubby, and when we bought this house, our new house, I was like, no smoking in the house. Okay, I don't care if it is 0 degrees outside. And why does he think if he goes in the bathroom that, it's not going to go elsewhere in the house? Right? And I'm like, no. Okay. And so, I'm in the process of painting the house, right now on the inside and everything, and that's a lot of work. Okay? Painters should get the money they ask for. Trust me on this. And so, I was like, now look, I'm painting, no. Okay? And I said, when I start painting that side of the house, because the way the house is set up, master side's over here, guest side's over here, with everything else in the middle. And I was like, when I start painting over there, no. Right. And bless his heart, he's been really good about it. But I will tell you, the blinds that were in there, okay, I had the cellular shades that were in there, I can't get them clean. And that's the stuff that for the secondhand smoker, unfortunately, is getting stuck in their lungs. And so, yes, it can be just as unhealthy for the second. And now they talk about third hand. Yeah, they're talking about if, all right, where I might be living with the person who smokes, when I go out because of being around them who smoke and come around someone who isn't smoking, they're still getting exposed.
From the smell?
The smell and of it being on the clothes and the particles and everything. Yeah, they're saying third-hand smoke now.
Yeah, and the kids especially. The kids crawling on the floor and the carpet. The mom.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Because I don't have that. I don't have the little kids anymore. But I didn't even think about that. But yeah, because it would settle on the surface, in that guest bathroom that I've worked on now. I realized after painting, I got to now go in and clean the cabinet, the bath cabinet that the sink and stuff's in because of it. I'm like,
Is the vaping, is that it? How does that cause issues? Is it because of the chemicals that they use for that into the lungs?
Okay.
I know there's not a whole lot of research, but I think they're doing more on it.
The vaping is not, and now, don't get me wrong, because start asking me about government regulation, and we're going, no. Okay, so cigarettes, government regulated. Even though, 21 chemicals are in a cigarette? I think, okay? I don't know how many are in vaping. There's no regulation. The problem is, okay, the fluids that are being used, as well as those chemicals, and if I'm not mistaken, some of it is heavy metals, which are in cigarettes too. But I think because of the delivery of them is what's causing a lot of the problems. Now, I do know that one of the problems that's coming about heavily from people who think vaping is healthier, okay, because they're like, oh, you're not getting the nicotine Okay, you're not getting the tar. Okay, but you're still getting lots of other stuff. So that's why I say smokers. Okay, because there's lots of other things that get smoked too. Okay, and you know they can still be just as unhealthy as a cigarette or the vaping or whatever. But the one thing we do see coming along with it is something called popcorn lung. Actually, the lung tissue is beginning to look like popcorn. Now, what that means, all right, just to give you an idea of what that means, this right here is showing the structure of the working area that we get to exchange the gases. This would be my alveoli. Okay? So, what I end up getting as I go from trachea to bronchi to the bronchi branches, and remember I've got 1 to each lobe, 3, 2, okay? And then those begin to branch. So as I'm looking, like say for example, at one lung, and I have my bronchi that's coming in, that bronchi that feeds that one lobe, it will actually have, it's either 7 or 17, I can't remember if I put it down, generations of branching. Meaning one branch, 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 until I get to one alveolus. Okay, so if I'm looking at that branching that's moving through that lung tissue, all right, as it branches, it doesn't stay hardened cartilaginous tissue like we see in this trachea. We begin to see it get smaller and muscular. All right, and guess what kind of muscle? Smooth muscle. Okay, so as I make my way from all these openings, moving down, branching, okay, and I begin to get to my areas, I'm going to get to my bronchioles, I'm going to get to a terminal bronchiole that's going to make its way to alveoli, to an alveoli duct, to an alveolus. Okay, now, when you're looking at this structure, okay, and it looks like a whole bunch of grapes, all right, that's how it should look. Just grape after grape after grape after grape, okay, with a very well amount of blood vessels. Do you see all those blood vessels that are attached to it? And what that means is in that one grape, I have a certain amount of surface area. All right? And then in the next grape, a certain amount of surface area. And in the next one, surface area. But from vaping, what they're finding, those alveoli do this number. And I have now decreased my surface area. And if I've decreased my surface area, I have decreased the ability for the gas exchange. Which means I cannot move oxygen and carbon dioxide properly. And from what I've seen, what little bit I've looked at for it, these areas are huge in the x-rays that are showing up. Almost a destruction of these little grapes. And I know people who vape, but I know people who smoke. I know people who smoke lots of things. Okay? And the thing about it is, you can't tell them nothing.